Thanks, Aaliyah, and thanks to Ray for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I do have some disclosures. I try to be a little bit disruptive, too. So what should we be looking at, and what should our composition be of our leadership structures? One way to look at it is from the census population data here from the United States, and maybe this is what we should model our structure and target, because that would be giving everybody potentially an equal opportunity. But there's other ways that we're diverse as well, and some of these are harder to codify, some of these are not written down, some of these are equally important but harder for us to really identify. Appearance, religion, gender identity, political beliefs, all of these things are important to creating diversity. So I think beyond gender and beyond race or ethnicity, there's a lot of other things we need to consider, although a lot of these are hard because people don't write these things down on a piece of paper. You can't look at pictures on a wall and compare these things. So part of it is just being aware and trying to be inclusive and have the right culture so that people can be free to express who they are. But to see where we are today, I don't have all that information. We do have resources who know what people look like on the outside, not necessarily even how they identify themselves, but this is some data from where we are. So I asked Joe Beiske, how's the American Board of Surgery? Where are we? And she said, well, all the past executives until her were white men. But there has been some change recently. Now there's three women and 2 men, however, all are white. There have been 2 African-American chairs and 3 female chairs, and currently there's a little more diversity in the board, 21 white men, 7 white women, 4 men of color, and including some Asian and Latina descent. Newly elected directors making attention to these things are even better still, and you can see the breakdown there. In the component boards of the American Board of Surgery, Peds Surgery has a minority and female chair. Vascular now has a female chair. Trauma critical care in the past has had a woman chair. And Surg-Onc has had 1 African American chair out of 4. So not terrible in the more modern era, but still a ways to go. American College of Surgeons, I actually asked Pat Turner to look at the wall of pictures and try to summarize from that where they've been historically. And she reported that the Board of Governors has all been white. The Board of Regents has had 1 African American chair, but everybody else was white. And there were 3 non-white presidents. There's been a lot of talk, and this is important, getting this at least on the discussion format to make us actually think about these things. Because the people in the leadership are the people nominating the next level of leadership. And without thinking about that, without being aware of your implicit and unconscious biases, we're not going to shift that. Because people tend to gravitate towards people like themselves. And embracing diversity makes us all smarter and all better. There's something called collective intelligence that if there's other people in the room with other ideas, you're going to be smarter. And Lee alluded to that earlier. There have been some great society presidential talks that have focused on diversity. Caprice Greenberg did a great job. There was a great job done by Keith Lillamo that have brought these things really to the forefront of a lot of our discussions. There have been diversity and equity initiatives in several societies. Medical school admissions has made a big difference in this, and I think these things are going to help us form the future better. The American Surgical Association is working on a big white paper. Dr. Stony here is one of the writers on that. And those are going to help us shape where the future should be and what we should be focusing on. And I'm very proud to say that with Dan Jones's help here at SAGES, we have the We Are SAGES initiative as well, which this is sort of representative of. So let's look at where we are in SAGES. So this is our current Board of Governors composition as of this past year. So we did have some female representation and some diversity in terms of race and ethnicity on our board. But is that a target and is that where we should be? Don't know. Let's look here at the committee chairs and co-chairs. Now this is actually after Dan made some major appointment shifts and was much more inclusive of women and minorities. So this is where we are now, and it's a big improvement over years in the past. And this actually tracks the SAGES leadership. So I think this is pretty interesting and a way to look at this. Each horizontal line is a board member. The gray boxes are the white male board members. The number of vertical boxes that they take, or I guess horizontal boxes, anyway. You followed their line out, that's how many years they've been in the board. The black squares are the president of SAGES. The green line is a minority, and the red lines are women. So there has been, for SAGES, one woman president in the past. I'm very honored that there's going to be a second one. That's going to be me coming up, so I'm happy about that. But you can see that there's been a shift, and in the more recent years, there's definitely a lot more percolation of color on the leadership bar there. So I think we are making a difference and moving things forward with this. This is just to compare. We don't really have great data about other departments, other places where we are, because people don't write these things down. So this is my department, just looking at it as a moniker, so it's the SAGES leadership representative of a surgery faculty, and it actually is pretty representative of at least what my department is. But I looked at my residents. We're actually not great on the gender, about the same as our faculty, but much better on ethnicity. And look at our medical students. That's actually more what we probably should be targeting. So we see a major shift. And one thing great about the medical students is they actually are reporting what they self-identify as their race and ethnicity on their application. So this is actually real data, not just from a picture. So it's kind of nice to actually have that information. And this is who's applying to medical school nationally. So this isn't just my medical school, this is actually who's applying. And I would say that this is probably what we want our leadership structure to look like once we change the needle. So luckily, the medical school classes have shifted so that we can do that. So this is a class from 1963, and you see very, very white and very, very male. And this is another just online picture from a medical class, and this is the kind of diversity we want to have represented. Now, just having the diversity there in the lineup and available doesn't mean that that's going to be who we pick. We have to be very intentional about making sure that people of all different backgrounds and all different diverse populations make it into our leadership. And that's not just giving everybody the same block. It's actually sometimes making an exception and making an intention to do that. So really working on equality, not just equality, but equity. So thank you, and thank you for letting us move the needle forward.